one thing that's different about designing and developing mobile free-to-play games, right? Ideally, they are running for decades. Like Subway Surfers, it's been 15 years and it's still running, right? You can't have like an end in mind for it because it has to keep running forever. So you always want to make sure that you can give something new to the players to experience and play. What happens is I'll play a free-to-play game this month. I won't play it next month. While I come back 3 months later, for example, right? So you always need to make sure that you keep adding like new mechanics, new visuals, new modes, new things for the players to experience. And when you do that for like 15 years, 10 years, hopefully we can survive for 20 years. That'll be great. Then you just let the game sort of evolve into what players want out of it, right?
Hello everyone, I'm Tucker Hazel and welcome back to Dev Dive, a show where I get a chance to help tell the human stories behind the games that we love. Today I've got a very interesting interview. I've got Atesh Kasim and Jakob Baldwin from Cybo, the game studio behind the long-running and very iconic, very popular Subway Surfers. Some of you might not know if you're not into the mobile game sphere, but Subway Surfers actually had a follow-up game released earlier this year called Subway Surfer City. Both Atesh and Jakob are on that team for Subway Surfer City, and I wanted to get a chance to sit down with them and talk about what went into making that game. Because as a follow-up to a game that's been running for 15 years and with 4 billion downloads, Subway Surfer City is in a really unique position. We talked about how the game started as a very small team, kind of spinning something up, their desire to do something new with a very similar formula, and the unique creative and design decisions they have to make while supporting a game that is free to play and should last for 15-20 years. Even if you're not into free-to-play games or into mobile games, this is one I think you should listen to. I think it's always important to challenge our biases and learn about other sides of the industry and see the creative people working on other sides of the field. So sit back, pull up some Subway Surfers on the side of your screen for your entertainment, and enjoy this conversation with Atesh Kasim and Jakob Baldwin from Cybo about Subway Surfers City. Thank you very much both for joining me.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
First, I want to get a little bit of an introduction to each of you because it seems like you guys might not be like, I don't think you've done like a million interviews. Right? You know, the names of Atesh Kasim and Jakob Baldwin are out there for everyone to know. And so let's give the audience a little bit of an introduction to the two of you and how you got started in making games and then what you do at Cybo. So Atash, let's start with you.
I've had two options that I wanted to do in life. Either I wanted to cook for a living, become a chef, or I wanted to make games for a living in some way or form. So I tried out making food for a living. It didn't work out for financial reasons or whatever, but I enjoy making food. I love making food. So I actually, yeah, so I then moved into the other option that I wanted to do in life, make games. So yeah, I got into games since working since 2011 games. I started off in a small company where I started as a game engineer, making like small games a lot. Then they didn't have designer, so I started going game design, and then moved to another company which made cooking games in India, a small companies. And so I got to sort of do cooking games, which sort of combines my love for cooking and game making. So, and then I worked there for a few years, and then I moved to Cyber because, like, Subway Surfers is like, we all have played it when we were in teenagers, and then I was like, oh, this seems like a fun company to work at. And then I moved here in 2021, and yeah, that's how I got into. I've always worked in mobile games. I haven't really tried any other type of game making so far. So yeah, that's all. Just a little bit about me.
Cool. Yeah, and I like that unique origin story with the cooking, and it's serendipitous that you got to work on cooking specific games. So that is very cool.
I did forget to mention I love Overcooked. I have spent a lot of time in that. So that is one game I love a lot. I just love cooking games. It's just, Overcooked is such a good, crazy, chaotic mix of, yeah, co-op gameplay with chaos, and I love organized chaos sometimes. So it's a great mix.
I think it was the 10th anniversary of that game, like yesterday, literally, which is crazy. And just a recommendation for you. I don't know if you played it. The game Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking. It's an indie game where you have to go through dungeons, collect cooking ingredients, and then cook them for giant monsters that are like going to destroy the world. And so you have to like appease them by making dishes. So and I think you played up to 4 players. So that's like a fun online co-op game, cooking
That
game.
sounds great. I think I might pick that up and try it out for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jakob, let's start with or let's move over to you. How did you get started making games, and what is it that you work at Cybo?
I'm a 3D artist, generalist, touch a lot of different aspects of games, and I also come from that background. I usually say that Minecraft was actually my first kind of bridge into game making, because my friends would get annoyed with me because they were out, in survival mode, but I would just always build stuff. I would do these, they were called adventure maps. I think they're still around, which is basically like a little game experience, but inside Minecraft. And I would make those for my friends and for servers and stuff like that. And I took it really far because I also got into coding that way through Redstone Logic and a little bit of Java for servers and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then by the end, I had like there was a plugin called World Edit, which basically turned Minecraft into like a sculpting tool, almost like a voxel ZBrush kind of thing. And one of my dad's friends saw me like voxel sculpting stuff, and he looked over and he like looked at me and he said, "Jakob, do you know what Blender is?" And that was that probably changed everything for me, because then I found Blender, right, and I never went back to Minecraft after that. That's a much better tool.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was kind of how I got started, and then in Blender, that was 15 years ago. So it was in Blender 2.4 or something. There was something called the Blender Game Engine, and just like with the Minecraft like adventure maps, I tried to make games in that. It's very old and deprecated now, so I don't think it really is around. But it piqued my interest in game making early.
And what kind of projects did you end up working at? Studios did you work at when you got into the actual industry with those Blender skills?
From there, I after I was done with Danish school, I found a 3D school in Denmark called Trumex. That's where I really started making a lot more games, going to game jams, and especially at a school like that, I think the best part was like all the other people who were making games. So there was a course called DADU, for example, where you got together a lot of engineers and designers and directors, and you did a whole little student project together. That was my first time doing stand-ups and retros and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's when I realized, okay, not only do I like this and I tried this education, I want to work with this, right? And from there, I was quite lucky, I think. Like, I got my first job as a motion capture company, like a student job through connections at the school, where I did Unity and Unreal demo scenes for conferences and stuff like that. And then by the last year, my mentor at school was actually an art director from Cybo.
Oh, wow.
Who basically told me like, come over to the office and show some of the game directors here your games, because I'm sure they would love to see them. And that turned into an internship, which then turned into a job, and that's how I got in.
Yeah.
So Cyber is my first games industry job like that. I only had the motion capture before that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, now we know how the two of you kind of ended up working for Cybo. You took very different paths to get there. But I want to talk about coming to work specifically on Subway Surfers City. Frankly, how long has, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this question, but how long has Cybo been playing with the idea of making a sequel to Subway Surfers? I mean, that first game came out 15 years ago, I think, and usually sequels don't take over a decade to come out. And so I'm curious what that process was like and how long it's been like cooking in the background that a Subway Surfers sequel should be made.
I remember the founders of Cybo, right, Bodhi and Sylvester. That's where the name Cybo comes from. It's a combination of their names. I think when they made Subway Surfers, right, once it was became a success and it became this crazy, amazing, endless running game, I think they had always wanted to sort of make a follow up to it, or like something that could build on top of it and try to do some things differently, right? So I don't really know exactly how long it's been in people's minds and stuff, but at least we've actually started working on Subway Surfers City in, I think, I started working on Jan 2021, and that's when we were like a small team. I think, Baldwin, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I think it was 6 to 7 people, and like we just tried to sort of start with some pre-production, trying some things out, and then grew from there, basically. So I would say since 2021 is what I've been working on, and this is the game I joined Cyber for. And so I would say, yeah, since 2021, I guess around that time we started like sort of concretely working on something that would become a follow up to
Yeah,
Subway Surfers.
it started very small. I was here a little bit earlier, and I got to work on a few other like prototypes and projects. But yeah, I remember. I think we were 7, and we started that small and wanted to try and see if we can add something new to the formula, right? And warrant a new game. But and then yeah, like I said, it slowly grew from there, and we kind of kept going at it.
So what was that original small team culture like before? Obviously, it probably grew into a much larger team to support a much larger project. But this kind of little prototype, couple person team putting together what would become this big thing. What was the culture of that like? Like, how did you pick which people were going to end up joining this little core to make Subway Surfer City?
Most of the people were from prototype teams that had gone before. So I was on one of the prototype teams that did some games that we didn't end up launching, or some we launched but pulled back. And we assembled a team out of some of the people that worked well there. But then we also had a lot of people joining in directly, like Atash, and also I think our game. No, he was on prototype team as well. Yeah, but there was some other people that joined directly for that game. But I definitely think we picked profiles like like me and Atash, who are very broad. Like we don't really when you're that smaller team, you're 7 people. You need people who all are not scared to touch a game engine, right? You can't have too many specialists at that point. As you grow, you need more like specifics. But back then, it's like we had me. Like I was a 3D artist, but I also did a lot of code. And that was great for like moving fast, but I will get into that. But yeah, all that early code that 7-man more prototype team did was of course turned out to be some of the worst scaling code later, because you don't really think about that when you're just starting out, right? But I think we wouldn't have found a lot of the fun we did if it wasn't for that start, right? So I think it was very worth it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that actually, I mean, it flows very nicely into one of the main questions I wanted to ask you guys when I'm thinking about trying to put myself in the headspace of a team making a sequel to a game that had been out for a long time, is still going, is still very popular, all that kind of stuff. Is how with the original like team and putting things together, like how different did you want the game to be at first? Like, were you building on the original tech? Like, what mechanics were you like, oh, let's try to like abandon this or make sure we include this? Like, how different was the original concept of like we want to differentiate it, but then like the push and pull of making sure that it was within like the bounds of the Subway Surfer City? I don't know. Like there's just this interesting kind of dynamic with like building on something that's so well established and iconic.
Like we didn't really want to make a sequel necessarily, but we just wanted to build on what was really good, like established. Like for example, for me, Subway Surfers is the best moment to moment action. Like the game feel of Subway Surfers as an endless running game, I don't think any other game matches that, because it's so easy to pick up and play. It's really intuitive, and it feels good to control the character. The controls feel really tight, right? So I think we just wanted to make sure that we take that and then build on top of it and just add different things to it. So for example, what works really well for Subway Surfers as a game is they travel the world, they go to different parts of the world, they do themes based on Mumbai, they go to Copenhagen, they go to like Rio, and then that's what works for them. What we wanted to do is bring Subway Surfers back to the IP, trying to stay more true to the world build around Subway Surfers, right? That's why it's called Subway Surfer City. It's based in Subway Surfer City. It's a little more grounded, I would say, in its world building, and we try to also make sure we stay true to street culture and like skateboarding culture and things like that. So that's how we sort of wanted to make sure it's like a little more smaller world that it's lives in. And then we also wanted to make sure we add more mechanics, like gameplay mechanics. Like we have different districts that players can unlock and experience different gameplay, because like if you've played it, you have a section called the docks where there's shipping containers falling in front of you. Suddenly a gap opens up and there's water and stuff like that. There's forklifts, and then if you go to our under tracks district, there's drones and lasers and like stuff like that. So we wanted to make sure that we make each area feel unique in terms of gameplay and its vibes and its mood, and that's what we wanted to go like build around.
Yeah.
And I also think that like you said, the original Subway Surfers, I mean, it was made by very, very few people, and by the time we started 8 years ago, right? And so there was a lot of early decisions made that they just were still dealing with, and like there was also a lot of, I think that's still the case, like when it works and it's still being very popular in live, you don't really want to mess with it. So all the stuff Atash mentioned with adding new mechanics, like you can't really do that to a live game, right? Because what if you add a laser and now everybody's angry at you because you changed the way it feels, right? So that was one of the cool opportunities of Subway City, is like, here's a fresh start. You can from the start, you can try to go a bit more crazy and then see if people still like it, and it doesn't affect as much everybody's experience, right, on the main game. So
Yeah, and to be fair, Subway Surfers, I mean, I know they have a lot of cool game modes, like, Floor is Lava and stuff. So they're also trying more things with their game modes. What we also wanted to differentiate was, like, we wanted to make sure we had some kind of finite runs, because it's an endless running game at the end of the day. But we wanted to change that. We were like, hey, we can do finite runs, right? Because when you play an endless running game, there's something called, you go into a flow state where you just go into the zone, and you're swiping left, right, up, down, sort of in the zone, and you're not really thinking. You just go into the zone, right? And that flow state is really hard to maintain and create. And we want to do something wacky and crazy sometimes. That's why we have the finite runs, where we don't need to care too much about the flow state. We do that when we make endless run level design and chunks and stuff. But with finite runs, we could do crazy stuff, like things falling and like really complex, like level design. Like we recently released a slowdown limited mode, weekly trial we call them, and where you pick up a slowdown pickup, and everything is like you're dodging lasers in Mission Impossible or something. And that would have been, in my opinion, impossible to add in the endless run, because we were like, this is like you're running really fast and suddenly it slows down. We want to do stuff like that. That's why we wanted to create finite, like limited runs, which starts and ends. And there's always been this running joke, and I think we made a TikTok video out of it, where, hey, I found the end of Subway Surfers, because Subway Surfers doesn't have an end. It's an endless running game, and we were like, let's have limited runs where you can actually reach the finish line and celebrate with your crew members and stuff.
Yeah. No, there's a lot in there that I want to talk about. And the first thing that really caught my eye was kind of this back to basics mentality of starting up this game. And then I simultaneously was replaying some of Subway Surfers. And it had been a very long time, frankly, since I'd played Subway Surfers. And that game has grown a lot in terms of the amount of currencies and locations and events and things like that, and things you can collect and do. And the to me, like, the UI is maybe a little bit overwhelming. Like, there's a lot going on, and then you swap to Subway Surfer City, and it's got that street culture aesthetic, and it's got a much more simplified UI and these kind of things. And so that, to me, is that difference. Is like, that game has built and grown with a massive community over these years. It's like we're starting fresh, and you definitely feel that in just like the onboarding process, I guess, of like just opening up the game and seeing like what options you have available to you. Cities is just way more streamlined to my eye. And was that part of the intention?
Yeah, I think we took a lot of learnings from the team. I mean, I'm going to say the team Obsessed, because they sit on the floor, like on the fourth floor. We had two separate teams, for example. Okay? So we've taken a lot of learnings from them. We've built on really good foundations and things that they've shared with us. I'm like, hey, we did this in the past. This is what we learned from it. So we took a lot of learnings from them. So we wouldn't be here if they didn't tell us these things that we could be, hey, you should try this out and this out. So yeah, we also want to make sure that players understood things properly, and they're taught things and they can practice on things. And I feel like, for example, I sometimes feel like we could do better, obviously. Like, you can always make the experience better, right? And make sure the players understand things. So yeah, that was the intention behind it, so that we wanted to make a game where a player can play for years and invest and feel like this is worth my time for years to come, right? And I think what we also sort of kept in mind with Subway Surfers City when we're making it is, like you mentioned, right? You played Subway Surfers, like, let's say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. I play it now every day, but like before I joined Cyber, I played it 10 years ago. And there's a lot of people who've played Subway Surfers in the past, and now these people have grown up a little bit, right? They're adults now, and they 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 need probably different set of challenges, and they want something else to experience, right? So we had these people in mind who probably had played Subway Surfers. They played it once in a while, and so let's give them something that they would enjoy, which in the similar vein, but different in its own way, right? And that's what we use a lot in terms of our principles of how it would work for all the things we added in Subway Surfer City.
On the art side, like we had an amazing art director, Jesper Ågaard, who was also here from the start pretty much of the company, and he very much also wanted to, just from like a visual perspective, go more back to the street culture and hip hop roots and do graffiti and all this. So because it's a thing that happens, like when you're live over the years, like you have this thing where you constantly need to like one up yourself and like go more crazy, because people are live. If they need to invest more time, they want to see something crazy happen, right? So you end up going to space or going underneath the sea or having like crazy Halloween maps, and they're super fun. And I think people like them, right? But then when you have a chance like this to go back and say, okay, actually, let's start from the base again and say, no, it's street culture. It's the friends hanging out, graffitiing stuff, skating around, being a nuisance, and just really focus in on that. That's definitely what we wanted to do from a storytelling and art perspective as well. So happy you noticed that, by the way.
Yeah. No, it felt very obvious to me as I started it, because it's like, it's a new game. It's smaller. It doesn't have as much of the stuff. It doesn't have that history, that kind of baggage, not necessarily positive or negative, but just like there's a lot that has happened to Subway Surfers over the years. And the art style I think is very interesting, because I'm curious for you, Jakob, on the art team. What are the parameters of like how similar or different it should be from the original game, which has its own very clear, iconic style that people are very used to? How different were you like allowed to be, right? Like how similar could it be without being the exact same? Like what were the things the challenges you were facing to make it feel similar but different, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely what we wanted. We wanted like a similar feel, but a more sort of modern, like you can tell the visuals are more of a modern style with the lighting and just the way we render things. We were very much inspired by some of the great remakes that there have been of, like, if you know them from Spyro and Crash, they've had some like amazing remasters, right? Where they have this effect where when you play them, you go, this is how I remember the game. Surely this is not as big a remaster as I think it is. And then when you go back and look, you go like, oh, the game definitely looks different from this, but I also like this new version is kind of the dream version that I had back then, right? We're definitely inspired by that. Whether we reached that or not, I'm not sure. That's what we went for. So a lot of the rendering and the rim lights on characters and the soft, like a lot of it was inspired by these, because they have great style, those remasters. So they've been on a lot of reference boards out here. But also Mario and like other like modern Nintendo games, just the way they do characters is so different from 13 years ago when you just did a solid color block out on a screen, right?
Yeah. And Tesh, what about for you thinking about the design of the game, differences and similarities, and making sure it stood alongside but also apart? Like I imagine this must have been a very interesting challenge to think about, satiating people who are used to this same game, because the game is structurally similar, but it's got some differences. So what was that kind of dynamic for you in the design world?
I think it was quite a lot of fun, honestly, because I think when we started, we had to make sure that the core controls felt as good. At least that was the baseline. We had to reach the core control level of Subway Surfers, because that itself is a high, mark to hit. And that was the first bit. And then we also sort of looked at what they have in terms of their power-ups and stuff. So we were like, a magnet makes sense. That's a classic. We need that. We also wanted to like sort of make some changes to that. Like we have a bouncy shield, or the bubble, which is it's like the shoes that you can jump really high, but you can choose to do that, right? And you can like stomp on the ground and jump really high. So we took the bouncy shoes, what are they called? I forgot. The super jump shoes from Subway Surf, and then we're like, okay, how can we give it our spin, right? A lot of it was getting the core controls right, and then we had to hit the flow state again. And what we also wanted to do was make a game that's harder, because if you play Subway Surfers, I feel like it's easier than Subway Surfers City. So we want to make sure we wanted to make it harder and keep pushing that boundary of how hard can an endless running game that's supposed to last forever be. And yeah, that was actually quite surprising. I remember when we like launched in like I now look at some players submitting scores like they like 200 million, 300 million. I'm like, how are you guys doing this? Because I used to think I was really good at it, and I keep seeing people. I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to like hold attention for so long. So that was quite surprising, looking at people score such high scores. And of course, players will always, do better than what you can. Yeah. So and apart from that, we all like, it was really fun coming up with the different mechanics in terms of gameplay mechanics for different areas. I think I already spoke about a little bit. Like for docks, we have water, and I think coming up with how we made water happen was like really fun as a team. We were like, hey, let's make water happen, and we just like, sort of winged it and like came things like how to handle certain things along the way. We were like, okay, well, should the player be able to run in a bubble on water? We're like, yeah, of course, you're in a giant bubble. You should be able to run on water. And what happens when you surf with a hoverboard on it? I'm like, yeah, you should be able to surf like you're water surfing on it and stuff like that. And what happens when you fall on it and then when you revive? You're like, okay, we'll send you on this impossible jump trying to find the next ground that you can land on. So it was like, for me, handling water was quite a lot of fun. And I wouldn't say it was challenging, but it was just like so much, it was very engaging to try and kind of figure things out along the way and let's see what's the best for the player and what's most fun. Yeah. So these are a couple of things that I found really.
Also, the stump, like that's probably my favorite
Oh, yeah.
design thing we made, because it's such a. Maybe you want to talk about it, Tesh, but it's such a thing where we saw people like when you see people play the original, people are like, if they are on a straight bit and it's too boring, they would like swipe up and down like this just to have something to do. And then the more we looked at it, was like, what if that did something? Like, what if you could time that right and get something out of it? Which was also very inspired by like Mario isms of like,
Sure.
like they have the pound stomp thing in Mario,
Ground pound,
right?
yeah,
Ground pound, yeah. And I think that one is probably my favorite mechanic we added, because we do a lot with it, right? Like we have coins that are just in caches that you can get, or you can like bounce and you can find secrets. There's even some really hidden secrets where you can get through planks into hidden undergrounds and stuff. That was probably design-wise my favorite like mechanic we added for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned kind of like what people are doing idly as things are just like going straight, because that happens in a lot of games, right? Think about like Zelda games or Uncharted, where you roll, right? You're just like, you're going down the hallway and you're like, I need something to do with my fingers, and so I'm gonna make Link or Nathan Drake just kind of like roll forward. It's it's not that much faster, but it's something to do. And so thinking about that and being like, how can we utilize that that desire that people have just to always be fiddling with something. And I also really enjoyed the bubble mechanic, and that sound effect would go boom. Like it's a really cool addition to it. But the controls, I think it was interesting you were mentioning that earlier, Tesh, is how you wanted to make sure you match that level. And one thing that I wanted to ask is like, tech wise, was it built off the original game in any way, or did you start completely from scratch and have to try to rebuild up to what that original controls and feel and stuff was?
Tech wise, it's not built on the same base at all. We built everything from the ground up, from scratch. Yeah, because we just wanted to be able to, like, as a team, we want to have control over what we're building, right? And yeah, tech wise, we didn't take a lot, but we use a lot of level design like stuff from them, not like just how they do level design and how they generate levels and stuff. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and we took the basics from them, and yeah, we took that as the base of how level design should be done, and then we did our own things on top of it. So I would say it's heavily like inspired from their level design and how the system works there, but tech wise we built everything from the ground up ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with the like crazy mechanics you guys have been talking about, the Mission Impossible lasers and adding water and the bubble and all that kind of stuff, how experimental in kind of like the design process, thinking about what the scope of this game would be. How experimental were you willing to get? Were there things where you're like, people were throwing out ideas and you're like, oh, that's too far, right? We can't add that to Subway Surfers. Were there things you like had to, I mean, I'm sure there were like things you had to cut where it was like that kind of like blew past what the scope of the game was going to be? What was that kind of like making sure it fit within something and then like pushing at those boundaries?
I mean, we've done a lot of different crazy things, and I think like going back to the flow state, some of these things would like really mess up the flow states. We're like, okay, let's save this for limited runs and trials and stuff like that. But yeah, one thing that was, I feel, my baby that I had to kill. And, you have to kill a lot of features in games. But it was a mode called Fever Dash. So what we were trying with that is you would charge up something and you would see this pickup falling from the sky, and you pick it up, and then you would flip the game on its head. You would go into an alternate dimension, and your hoverboard would like transform, and you would like go really fast, and things are just floating. And in this mode you had to go into trains and obstacles and like destroy them, and they would give you coins.
It's kind of
Oh.
like the Pac-Man when you get the little thing that flips the game around, right? That was
Yeah. The power pellet or the power star from Mario, the invincibility star, right? Yeah, that I understand that. Yeah, and that didn't work. I'm gathering.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was great, but it felt like we would have to build two different games on top of each other at the same time, and I felt like there was just too much to do. Then, also, it was, yeah, basically had to make level, like when you make levels, right? You designing positive and negative space. Then you had to do more levels for the other one, because now it's about hitting. So you can't like use the same levels that are about avoiding and make them about hitting, right? So it felt like we would just start another game on top of this game, and it was a lot.
like the craziest ideas. I would say most of them. It's exactly this where, yeah, if you encounter them in the run and then you go back to normal, everything feels so slow and boring, and it kind of like messes with the overall feel of the game, right? Which is a shame because in itself it's a cool mode, but yeah. We also had like I had some prototypes where you would go into like a free skate mode where the three lanes no longer exist and you're just like free thumb skating. But again, it's just like it was such a different switch, and then when you come back, it was just jarring in the end, right? Even though it was fun to try. So those all had to get cut in the end.
Yeah. Jacob, in the whole process of coming up with like different art and different ideas for what the vibe and style of the game was going to be, is there anything that you made that didn't quite make the cut, a baby that you had to kill?
I mean, I was also a big part of Fever Dash. Like the
Okay.
transforming board that Atash mentioned. I loved doing transforming things, so I was in on that from the start. But yeah, that one didn't really make the cut. And I will also say that we said earlier that with this game we mostly due to our art director who was very good at that, but we stayed very close to the street culture and IP. I will definitely say I think I've been one of the ones who maybe pushed a little bit like, oh, can we go more fantastical sometimes? But I think in the end we had a better result out of reining that in and going, actually, let's make this and make it really, really good. But it's still about the street and the kids having fun and not going to space. I didn't go to space, but I was close maybe a couple of times. So it was good that I was reined back a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to think about how, I mean, the original Subway Surfers, when it first came out, wasn't in space. It wasn't around the world. Like, it was that more focused thing. And so, do you guys have any, like, on the team thinking about, you don't have to spoil any long-term plans, but like, is there the worry that maybe it will kind of jump that shark eventually and like evolve to be something that it has to get crazier? I mean, that's got to be something you're like, maybe like, huh, are we going to lose that identity?
Now that we're live, that's definitely a thing, right? Because now we see why this ends up because every week you want to, or not every, but every release you want to have something that you can really sell because it's a free to play game, right? So you want Google and Apple to notice these games and to promote them, and it's always better if you can present something crazy. For a launch, it might work with this is a really cool street focused, like a hip hop culture focused game that's back to the roots. But yeah, who knows when we go forward? I think the plan is to try and keep it, but already we are pushing more because you need to, right? You need to keep
Sure.
people entertained. It's not a paid game, right? So
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's different about designing and developing mobile free to play games, right? And ideally they are running for decades. Like Subway Surfers, it's been 15 years and it's still running, right? And it's you can't have like an end in mind for it because it has to keep running forever. So you always want to make sure that you can give something new to the players to experience and play. And a lot what happens is I'll play a free to play game this month, I won't play it next month, while I come back 3 months later, for example, right? So you always need to make sure that you keep adding like new mechanics, new visuals, new modes, new things for the players to experience. And when you do that for like 15 years, 10 years, hopefully we can survive for 20 years, that'll be great. Then you just let the game sort of evolve into what players want out of it, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And so what is your like release cadence like? Like how often do you have to be updating the game? Is there like a goal in mind, like every month or every 3 weeks or whatever it is? And then what's that sort of cycle like on, adding a new character? Does that happen on a certain cadence? Adding a new map on a certain cadence? Like what is that, the release schedule like for you guys keeping this game live and up to date?
Yeah, I think there's some industry best practices. Like as a player, I would like to play something new every month, right? So we try to keep it once a month, but we don't really have a hard set rule that it has to be in 30 days or once a month, because we also have to develop and make the things that we want to release. Sometimes they take more time because we hit trying to aim for some ambitious things, right? And sometimes they take lesser time, and then we release it earlier. Like for example, we have seasons every 28 days. So we release a new surfer, who we and that's another differentiator from Subway Surfers. Our characters have unique abilities and stuff. We have 3 unique abilities. You can upgrade them. There's a lot of depth in them. So we release one every month or every 28 days. Every a new board for them every 28 days. So that's the cadence for seasons. That's what we have right now. That's the only thing I would say it's fixed. So one surfer and one board every 28 days. Everything else is it takes the time it needs to take.
Sure.
Like for example, working on a new district or a new area, it is a huge undertaking. It's like you have to do new mechanics, do new visuals. Yeah, it's a lot, like new level designs and like a lot of things. So that we release that when we think it's of the high, like the quality bar we have, and then we release that when it's ready.
Yeah. Jakob, any thoughts on the release cadence, updating and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, like it says, we're always working on new content, right? But yeah, it also takes different shapes. Like then we release like the slow motion mode 1 month, and then who knows, a new district eventually will come. But we're always working on new maps and content as well. I think that is one of the things we are still trying to figure out how often this is going to look live, because I think when we were back in development land years ago, we were thinking like, oh, we won't need to update, like for example, maps as often as Subway Surfers did, because we have all these level elements and it takes longer to come up with that. But I'm sure the fans would love it. So we are trying to figure out how to balance that, because we still want to add new modes, characters, other things as well, right? So
One of the most requested or features is new districts. Players are like, oh, they didn't release a new district. New district when? New district when? Players love the gameplay variety that they have, so they obviously want more. But it takes time and effort,
it's
and
always nice seeing. I've seen some fans, like again the most loyal fans, right? But they defend us and go, yeah, but notice how much more they're doing for these districts compared to the original game. Like there's whole new secrets and mechanics, and now we can go up and climb through a thing and down into the, like you couldn't do that in the original. That's just, it's all, the gameplay stays the same in the original Subway Surfers, right? So I appreciate those fans that can see that work, because yeah, we do spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that like dynamic with understanding what the audience wants is something that's every developer has challenges with that. But one of the things that I think is very interesting about Subway Surfers is that game over time has become kind of this second screen game. Is that people like to do it kind of as a fidgety thing when they're watching a show or doing something, and it's to the point that to my eyes, one of the biggest memes about Subway Surfers is that people put it in like the corner of other videos as like, I don't know, mental stimulation for people that need extra stimulation. And I just want to know what you guys think about that, of that game like being like as almost an aggressively ridiculous meme people like playing it while they're in a movie theater or like putting it next to something that's like serious. So it's like this weird disconnect. Did you like have to keep that in mind of like this is maybe how people are going to be playing our game as well? And what are you guys' thoughts on like people experiencing the game in that way and that like being a part of Subway Surfers culture and history?
I remember when when TikTok came out, and this is when it became the second screen, Family Guy, Subway
Yeah, yeah,
Surfers
yeah.
stuff, right? It. I mean, it's great that it became such a big, like, people remember Subway Surfers so much that it became viral on TikTok, like, massively, right? Like, it's for me, it's like it's testament to how widely known Subway Surfers is. I mean, it's a game. I mean, I'm not trying to like brag or anything, but it's been downloaded like 4 billion times. It's a lot of humanity has played this game, right?
Yeah.
So so it was it was really like crazy when it went viral on TikTok, and people like, what is, I don't know, is this called sludge content or
Oh, something like
something?
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit! It was really exciting to see that happen, and it's like very, in a way, humbling to see how big Subway Surfers is, right? But I think when we looked at it, and there was also this thing that people do with Subway Surfers, they do the no coin challenge. That you want to do as much as you can without collecting coins, and they do runs like that. So that was also something that was a little viral. We didn't really think about that, honestly, like when we were making Subway Surfers City, because that's not really going to inform how we design and develop the game, in my opinion. We did talk a little bit about, hey, people are doing no coin challenge, because when I set up the coin colliders and stuff, I wanted to make sure it's easy for you to collect it. You shouldn't be punished if you miss it slightly, right? You want to be forgiving and make sure the players don't get punished for not timing the swipe correctly. So I made sure the coins are slightly large in size, so you can always collect them even if you miss them slightly. So we were like, hey, this is really hard to do no coin challenge with this setup, right? I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, we're not trying to make a game to like sort of make this content happen. We just want to make sure the game is great, like Subway Surfers is. I mean, when we made Subway Surfers, we didn't like, envision that it would be going crazy on TikTok, right? That's not why the game was made and how it was made. So
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence though, because it's that flow state that you mentioned earlier. It's Subway Surfers is such a zen game where you get so locked in on like just evading the next thing. It's like, oh, my life becomes simple for a bit because I can just like log in and do this satisfying tactile thing. And I think that is what also speaks to people when it's used like that in the videos, that there's this thing that they can just look at and get engrossed in, and maybe it's more interesting than whatever is on top of it. I will say, I think nowadays, maybe when that trend first came out, I think a lot of people were actually like using it as like a distraction. And nowadays, I feel like most of the memes I see are kind of self-referential to it. That like, oh, I put Subway Surfers on this to enjoy it, but I don't know if actual many people are doing it anymore. Like, I don't think young people are. And when I think it was a couple of months ago, it was Stephen Colbert, some talk show had. So like
Oh yeah.
they did the meme where he had Subway Surfers running under his speech that he was doing, and then like, okay, when the real grown-ups are starting to do it, the kids are definitely not that
Yeah,
interested
yeah,
in it
yeah,
anymore. So
yeah.
I think it's become more self-referential now, which is better, because of course there's some negative connotations to attention span and stuff like that. But I don't think a lot of people are actually using it like that anymore, in my opinion.
if you look at the Subway Surfers TikTok account, right, we still have so many views on TikTok, and like the hashtag is used so much. It is still it's now, it's not like a second screen thing anymore, but it still has its like a massive space in TikTok.
Yeah, and with specifically Subway Surfer City, I mean, it's been a good amount of months since the game came out at this point, and I'm just curious for you guys what the experience has been like having the game finally out. I mean, you've been working on it for years, and you've seen it released. Now you've seen a couple of months of the audience growing and reacting to it. What's that experience been like for both of you finally having the game release?
It's been great. It was at times, especially me coming in as a first games job, it's at times been very overwhelming thinking that we're working on this thing it's kind of like a follow-up to something that so many people know, right? And so many people are gonna see, and like, are they gonna be happy about it? And so when we launched, of course, I was very nervous about what the reaction would be, because you can imagine it could go south like really badly, right? But I will say it doesn't seem to have had like negative reaction at all. In fact, we have a lot of fans, which is super nice to see. Like when we started getting our first fan art and like music made by fans, that was very heartwarming for the team and for me, right? Seeing my work all over the place, it's honestly been amazing, and especially like Discord and maybe not so much the Reddit, but the Discord is very nice. I would say, but Reddit is also a tough place to be nice in.
This game we've like spent a lot of time and like poured our heart and soul into it, and yeah, for me this is like, we've sort of made this thing. Again, I was gonna say it's my baby, but I've worked on this for a long time, so now it's out and people can finally experience what we made, and we've had so many downloads already, like it's crazy. And also, like when you work on something, you just sort of, it's yours and you're working with it and you don't really know what's going to happen when you release it. And once you release it, it's like now I think the players own it, sort of, right? Like it's theirs now. And now we're just trying to see what they like, what works well for them, what doesn't work well for them. So there's a lot of learnings happening now because we've worked on this. We've done a lot of play tests and try to get as much player research as possible by observing and looking at things. But once you release it, then it's a whole different ball game. So I think it's been a great launch. Like it was a really good launch when and now we're just learning and iterating and adapting and seeing what players want and it's trying to figure out how we can give them what they want more and less of what they don't want anymore and things like that. So yeah, it's been really great. I have never worked. I mean, of course, it's Subway Surfers follow-up, right? I've not worked on a game of this scale, and it's been crazy. It's been like so much fun. Also, the team I work with, I think it's just been, yeah, for me, the best team I ever worked with. Super passionate, really talented people, and it's great. I can remember when I joined the team, and I was working with Baldwin, and this was Baldwin's first job, right? And he was like just coming from an internship, and I saw him do all the crazy things he could do. Like he could do art, engineering, engineering, design. He would do level design and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, these people are really good at what they do. And I'm like, okay, I need to step up. And like just it was great to see the level of the people that I was working with. They're really good people at what they do, like excellent professionals.
Yeah, and that actually is one of the things that I really like talking about and asking about when I do my interviews is just team culture, studio culture. Whether that's this small team you guys are working with, or smaller, specifically on Subway Surfer City, or wider Cybo, which is a much bigger organization with multiple teams and stuff like that. What's the studio culture like at Cybo? You guys have any fun traditions that you guys do? Any like inside jokes on your team, things like that? Like, what's that kind of dynamic like, and what's life like working at a big mobile studio like Cybo?
I don't think we're that big actually, but like for example, our team. I mean, our team is like around 30 people. So I mean, of course, we've grown from 7 to 30 now, but it's a very good sized team. I don't know if we have any internal jokes on the team, but our tradition. I mean, it's we have like Friday bars in Denmark in general, so it's a lot of fun. Like every Friday, people get together, we play board games, and we just hang out together and stuff like that. And then on this team, I think one thing we've done really well is play our own game often. So we make sure we play it every Friday. We sit down and play the newest stuff that we're working on, and that has been something we've kept alive almost every single Friday throughout the years that we worked on this. So that's really good. And we try to keep this culture of when we play the game, we try to talk about what we are feeling as a player as much as possible. So we're not trying to solve things or come up with solutions there. We're just saying whether I'm feeling frustrated or I'm feeling, joy or I'm feeling excitement, and like just talk about your experience as a player. I think that has helped us a lot in coming up with good ideas and like what the sensations of the game are. So I think for me I've never done that before in my experience in the games industry, because playing your own game so often together as a group is great. It's really good. It helps a lot, and it sort of puts people together. I don't know if there's any internal jokes. Maybe Baldwin, you have something.
There's been something about a unicorn at some point.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that was about. That was a mysterious unicorn that wandered the whole office at some point. No, but yeah, I would say like Yeah, especially Friday bars. We have a really nice lounge. It's kind of like if a teenage boy designed his dream hangout space because we have like arcade machines and like a basketball machine you can throw in and multiple PlayStations and yeah, it's very cozy place to hang out and yeah, we do so a lot.
Yeah, I think one thing I was surprised by when I moved to Denmark to Copenhagen from India, that the people here are extraordinarily nice. Like I was kind of surprised. I'm like, why are you so nice? What is going on here? But they're genuinely nice people, and I was really like, I'm not. It was surprising that how nice people were here. And yeah, I think the culture is very. I mean, Denmark is Denmark is known to have this flat hierarchy a lot, and I think we really do that a lot, like on our team especially. We want to make sure everyone has a say in how we make the game. I believe in, like, everyone has good ideas, and my job as a game designer has mostly been to take everyone's ideas and then sort of put them together. And I think it's just easy as a game designer if everyone has good ideas. So we have a really flat sort of hierarchy on the team. We try to make sure everyone's involved, everyone has the same things, and we plan things together, scope things together. Like, for example, we do whatever we can in terms of making games. If we have to fix bugs, we fix them. If you have to test, we test and stuff. So yeah, I think the culture of just making sure we are all like sort of game developers together making game is something that I found really nice to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah, and the game industry in Denmark is also something that as kind of the last question I want to ask you guys about is because I've never been to Denmark, and I think you guys are the first people I've interviewed that are working there and that have lived there. And so, what's your experience, and what do you know about like the wider games industry culture in Denmark? You guys have like friends at other studios. You go to like local events of other developers in the area. Like, what's that kind of national culture and in the area like for the games industry in Denmark?
It's a small industry here, right? Denmark is a small country, so comparatively, the Danish game scene is not huge. But I will say, I find it very tightly knit. Like there's, especially when I was a student trying to enter it, there was a lot of events and avenues to do so. Like I brought a test to this before too. Like there's a Spilbar event, which is a games bar that happens every other month during the summer half year, where most of the Copenhagen game scene shows up usually, which is very nice. Like I hang out with talks and some free beer, which is always how you get Danes to come to stuff.
Sure.
um,
I feel that's how you get people to come to stuff.
yeah, especially Danes, I would say. And the same event, Cyber's actually kind of part of the main 5 or 6 big companies that arrange these events and sort of try to bring the community together. There's a couple of others like Ghost Ship Games and IO Interactive and Tactile and these other big players, right? And they also do. They host something called the Danish Game Awards, where we also always go, and it's super fun to see the 500 or 300 other Danish game developers that there are. But it's nice to see them there. So yeah, I would say it's definitely very tight knit, and a lot of the studios know each other because a lot of the employees are cycling around between the different companies, right?
Sure.
So we used to share a building with 2 or 1 Playdead, yeah.
Yeah, we used to share. We used to work in the same space as Playdead, the people who made Limbo, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. So we had a nice rooftop terrace, and we would just like hang out there on Fridays, just like talking to each other about what are we working on. I'm like, hey, when is the next game coming out? Playdead. That was what I would always ask them, and they wouldn't.
And that was 5 years ago, so that's
yeah, I know.
Not throwing shade.
No, that's awesome. All right, well, thank you very much both for joining me. I really had a good time learning about what went into making the game. Seems like a lot of interesting challenges. It's a very fun game that I actually got a lot more into than I think. What you mentioned earlier about some of the people that grew up with Subway Surfers growing up, and then being adults and being interested in something maybe a little bit more mechanically engaging. That's what I found out of Subway Surfer City. And so some people have mobile games in their mind as like, oh, this is just too simple. This is for kids or whatever. But it's like, I think there is obviously very talented and interesting game design behind it. So I'm always happy to get a glimpse into a new corner of the industry. And Jakob and Tesh, thank you very much for chatting with me, telling me about the story of your team making Subway Surfer City. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, I think it was great. I was like, yeah, I've never been a part of something like this before, and it was pretty smooth, and it was really easy to talk to you, and you made it really, yeah. Very thanks for facilitating it, and like just like, basically letting us talk.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. It was great fun. I've not tried it either before, so I was curious, but yeah, it was super fun.
All right, thanks guys, and for everyone watching, I'll have a new interview every single week. Thanks so much.